The new starter set for Dungeons & Dragons is out, and I am mostly happy with it. I think it's a pretty good starter set for somebody that already has some experience playing Dungeons & Dragons, is looking to maybe branch out, run some games of their own. That's what I'm doing with this. I didn't get sent a review copy or anything like that. I bought it, one for this episode, and two, to give to a friend of mine. They played tabletop role-playing games with me, and they want to run some games for some friends, and I think this is a really good item for that kind of person. I think it's almost perfect. There's just one really big flaw that brings it down from, an A+ to like a C+, B- for me. And that's, the start of the starter set. Hi, I'm James, and on this channel I talk about the things that I think about, plan, and plot for my tabletop role-playing games. And today, that's this thing, the 2025 starter set for Dungeons & Dragons. And when we start our critique, we start with what went right. This box is not light. People have been complaining about the cost. I get it, cost is always a factor. This is $50 US. By comparison, the player's handbook back there is $40 US. That does not include the monster manual. Then there is Wingspan, a board game over here. That is $45 US. Gloomhaven, a fantasy role-playing game, definitely in the board game scheme of things, is $200 US. I don't need a player's handbook with this thing because it has rules, and I won't need the Dungeon Master's Guide, and there are monster cards and monster tokens in here, so I won't need a monster manual either. And there are 3 adventure booklets, which we will definitely be talking about. So I feel like I got my money's worth here. I could run a lot of games with this, even outside of the Borderlands, because all I need is the new maps. I just use their monsters and their rule sets, and I'm good to go. I know some people say that this set feels like they're trying to turn Dungeons & Dragons into a board game. They specifically cite the character boards rather than character sheets. And in the large scale of turning into a board game, I do kind of feel that way with some of the changes in the new edition, but not with the character boards here. Look, I love paper character sheets. My friends at my game constantly try to use apps to run their characters, and then I give them the custom items that they love so much, and then they break their app and spend another 30 minutes trying to figure out how it works. Paper just works. I love paper, but I am not the target audience for this thing. New players are the target audience for this thing. And there is a tactical aspect to learning things. Oh, I see. I can't wear a breastplate over my chainmail because they go in the same slot. It just helps them out. And while TTRPGs are not board games, they occupy the same slot in our attention as, board games, card games, and video games. I do hope players grow out of their need to use the card-based character sheets because that'll allow them to use more custom stuff. But there's no denying that people judge a book by their cover. And for other people, set dressing is part of what makes the game fun for them. My players have way more fun if I pull this out and plop her on the table than if I were to pull out a Post-it and write the name Lolth on it. Would it have been nicer to have plastic figures? Absolutely, it would have been. But how much would that add to the cost? And for them to keep the cost down for people to get their hands on this, I am perfectly happy to give up the plastic for this. And realistically, how much plastic would we have gotten? We'd have gotten 1 sprue of skeletons and zombies, and that's basically it. We would get way more monsters by them using cardboard tokens. So we get, dragons and owlbears and undead and zombies and all sorts of different types of monsters. I'm willing to give up to get more. I also like that this is tabletop focused. I do play online with some friends because they live far enough away that we cannot play together anymore. I also play in person with some other friends. And if I'm being honest, I prefer the in-person experience. And with Hasbro pushing D&D Beyond subscriptions, I'm really surprised to see a well-made, table-focused versions of Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, these are a couple small things, but this booklet, it's not stapled. It's stitched. It's going to hold up way better on the staying together because there's not 2 staples on here. And the tokens have letters on here from A to F, I think, so that you can differentiate Cobalt A from Cobalt B from Cobalt C really easily. That's a level of detail that I really appreciate from a product like this that says that they know how dungeon masters run the game. I like that the handouts for provisions have limited amounts of provisions, so I can just give them the players and say, here's what's available, and the players won't get locked into choice paralysis on all the items that are available in Dungeons & Dragons. I like that the price is right there on it, so that the dungeon master doesn't have to go looking up the price for a potion of healing, a maul, or a lantern. I like that there is a menu for a tavern in here. First-time players, when they get to a tavern, they will, dollars to donuts, ask what there is to eat and drink. And a first-time dungeon master doesn't need to have a moment of, am I supposed to know what there is to eat and drink in a tavern? Why did I think I could do this? This was a terrible idea. These kind of touches, these nice quality of life things, tell me that somebody over there at Hasbro was actually playing with like a beta version of this thing and giving feedback on tiny things that they could use to improve the Dungeon Master experience for brand new Dungeon Masters. In exchange for the gold and the crystal tokens, though, I really wish that they had included a 5th character. There are 8 character boards after a fashion. They are really just 2 different boards up to level 3 for each of the 4 character classes that you will be playing, the fighter, cleric, rogue, and wizard. And if you are the last to pick a character class out of these 4, and you got stuck with something, odds are the cleric, that's not a good start to playing. You're probably going to feel railroaded. I like the cleric. I think it's come a long way from what it was when I learned to play. It's no longer just a heal bot. I think people could have a lot of fun with it, but it is different if you got stuck playing it because there are no other options. And adding a 5th character class to a game that was meant to be played by 4 players and a dungeon master would have helped with that. I like that this introduces the sandbox style of play back to players of Dungeons & Dragons. Since like 2014, they've been very linear adventure focused. And I get that the narrative first crowd is a reliable customer base for the big campaign books. I have all of them over there, so I am part of that crowd. But for me, I think that RPG magic is at its best when, out of the nothingness and without anyone meaning to, a narrative just happens. And when we can look back at the whole campaign and say something like, did all this really happen because we just happened to find that guy with his cart stuck in the mud? That's actually a pretty hard game to run, and that leads to my major complaint for this box set. There's this idea in teaching people something is that I will do, then we will do, and then you do. And this box jumps straight to, you do it. The booklets are just a bunch of random encounters. My friends and I could absolutely weave these into a campaign, but we're not the target audience. This is for new players. Imagine that you're 12 and you got this for Christmas or something, and you manage to convince your friends to put down their cell phones and their video game controllers to come over to play Dungeons & Dragons. And as the book recommends, you open up the wilderness encounter to start. And you read, your adventuring party enters the wilderness. Mysteries await you in this untamed land. Where do you go? You're probably sitting across the table from a bunch of people that are just blinking at you in confusion. What are we supposed to do? What's the goal here? As a wise man once said, there's no action verb given to them. Escape, kill, stop, rescue, find, steal. I'm not saying that they need a fully fleshed out adventure or that they need to give up the entire sandbox premise of this box set. Just a little something. They should learn from their cousins in the video game landscape. Games like Skyrim, Fallout, Elden Ring, Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. It needs a tutorial. Every one of these games always has a small on-rail mini adventure to start things off, to teach people how to play the game. It didn't need to be much, 1 page, maybe front and back, that's it. We could do that now. Where do the players come from? They're probably following this road. They came from the east to get to the keep on the borderlands. They're part of a caravan bringing supplies. It is Dungeons & Dragons. The players are probably expecting to encounter a dragon. Let's not disappoint them. It was sudden. One moment, there was daylight and no clouds in the sky. Next moment, there was a thrum in the air and the world turned to flame. On its first pass, the dragon took out the horses. On the next, the captain of the guard. Then everybody scattered. To the best of your knowledge, you and your companions may be the only survivors. Someone's got to make it back to the keep to tell them that no supplies are coming. But it's getting late. The sun is setting, and you won't survive a night in the wilderness. What would you like to do? We just want to keep this simple, so let's use 3 encounters. Let's use the hermit hut and the sprites from the woods, and then we'll use the bandit for the trail to cap off the adventure. The players are in the woods, so they're going to encounter the hermit hut first. Xanth, in the encounter in the booklet, could help them. She knows where the keep is, and she could tell them, but she's not going to. Not until the players do something for her. That's how adventures come to be. There's conflict. You want something, this person has it, but they don't want to give it to you. What are you going to do to resolve that encounter? The sprites aren't going to help the players out of the goodness of their heart either. They want something. Fortunately, it's just to be entertained. When the player spars with them and they'll give them the fairy dust, and then they can go back to Xanth, give her the dust, and then she will show them to the road. And then she'll say, the keep is that way. It's about 2-3 miles on. You should get there just after dark. Good luck. No, I can't go with you. I've been banished. And then she wanders back to her hut. That's very interesting. Have the players write that down. Now they have something they can follow up with. They have a possible quest that they could go chase down if they want to. On the way to the keep, they will encounter the bandits. That is absolutely going to be a violent encounter. The players get to use their combat skills. They kill the bandits. They loot the bandits. Now they have some treasure. Yes, it's very railroady because tutorials are railroads. They're to make sure that you encounter everything that you need to know to play the game. And in terms of playing Dungeons & Dragons, we have a couple of encounters here. That's what makes adventure. Some of them are social. Some of them have some negotiation. Some of them are definitely going to be combat. You get some treasure. You probably level up. You're going to complete a quest. That's all you need to know. And now the players are in town. They can talk to a bunch of NPCs, figure out if they want to do any of those quests, or they just want to run out in the woods and figure out what's out there. And most importantly, now the Dungeon Master knows how to run a game, has got one underneath their belt. And they probably understand how to do the sandbox style. You roll a bunch of random encounters and you figure out how to improvise a story out of those in the moment. Would I recommend this box set to someone that has never played before? No, not unless I could do that little tutorial thing and say, okay, roll me 3 adventures and see this is how we're going to narrate them together. Now you roll 3 and you tell me how you would narrate those together into some adventure. Now you're just going to do that at the table live in front of your players. But what about somebody that's already played Dungeons & Dragons? Maybe looking to get behind the screen, but they don't have any stuff of their own to play? Absolutely. This has everything that you need to play. You don't need any of these other books. You don't even really need the rules from this. This just comes with all the stuff that makes it kind of fun to play, all the gubbins that are like the material things that people like to play with. And in terms of knowing how to DM, you already know more than I did when I learned to play, so you'll be great at it. Until next time, Dungeon Masters, remember, you're a player too. Try to have some fun.